Albuquerque citizens are already flooding to early voting locations to take a stand on a proposal to ban abortions after 20 weeks. The issue will be decided this week, but if it passes, what next? The ACLU plans to file suit against it, and the Attorney General has stated the law would be unenforceable, as well as other things. The election will cost about $600,000 out of the gate and could cost upwards of another $1 million in legal fees to fight any litigation. Emotions are certainly running high, and the money's flowing into TV ads and filling up our mailboxes. This week, a well-known abortion opponent from California tried to disrupt Governor Susana Martinez's Veterans Day address. You might have seen that picture, and opponents of the ban charge that outside groups are driving this initiative. Joining us to talk about this and other news, we welcome back UNM political science professor Lana Atkinson. And our line regular here today is Daniel Foley, former Republican whip of the State House. Returning to the line this week, our friend Steve Terrell of the Santa Fe New Mexican. And we welcome back Jerry Klossing of the Associated Press. Now, Lana, similar sounding bill now being pushed in the U.S. Senate just popped up, but that seems to have little chance of passing. If this one's approved here in Albuquerque, I'm curious, it certainly will face a legal challenge, but is there an ultimate political goal here that's outside of the legalities of it? Is there something else, another point being made completely?
There's, I think, two things. One is, of course, the symbolic nature of what's going on for those people who want to see this initiative pass. And then secondly, there's a carryover effect. We can't get anything done in the national legislature. We can't get anything done in Congress. It's deadlocked. Yeah. So groups are going to be making, in general, cities and urban centers, central places for the culture war.
Jerry, it's interesting how the aggressive tactics, all the other things have seemed to take a lot of folks here off guard. We see this going on around the country, but suddenly it's here in our front yard. It's just a different situation. I'm curious how you sense the overall tone of things as you watch it. It's been very sharp and very pointed. What's been the effect here in Albuquerque?
Well, it's hard to know. I mean, it's certainly brought the voters out.
Yeah.
I think they said that we've got had more early voting now than in the mayoral race. I think the early voting turnout has now equaled what the total turnout was for the mayor's race. But it is unusual in Albuquerque. I mean, New Mexico, this really hasn't been a political issue. It's been a non-issue. So.
Yeah.
Interesting. I surprise people.
Please, yeah, absolutely. And Dan, folks who are for this say they've been trying the legislature for years. But I'm still curious. What I was trying to getting at with Lana, there's something else going on here. Do you anticipate if this does not work, so to speak, if it does not survive the legal challenge, we'll see this in the legislature again? Is that where this is all headed?
Well, you see it in the legislature every year. There's always, whether it's the marriage initiative, the abortion initiative, it's every year in the legislature. All machinations. To get the partial birth abortion ban in New Mexico, it took years to try to get to that. I think there's two things at play. One of them is, I think it's the ballot initiative. We don't really have that in New Mexico on the statewide level. You can't do it. And it really, when you watch the marriage issue in California, California turned down gay marriage on a ballot initiative. Who'd have thought that? Who'd have thought a state like California? So I think it's empowered people saying maybe the voters should be doing more of this because we'll actually get something done. I think on both sides of the law, on both sides of the issues.
Do you really want to go there, though? California has had its shares of ups and downs with these kinds of.
Oh yeah, no. I think you do on a lot of things because I think the people are smarter than politicians give them credit for. I think that getting stuff out before the voters, like the governor has said on the marriage issue, getting things out before the voters and seeing what the will of the people actually is. Technology is such with early voting and absentee voting and getting people to the polls. I think we can get a better pulse of the people. There seems to be a real pushback, from elected politicians to take any of these, what we would consider the tough issues.
Right.
And so, and now with instant media, you're in trouble no matter what you say or how you vote. You're alienating yourself. I think even politicians are saying, let's get that stuff off the table and let's get it to the voters.
Sure, Steve, it's interesting. One can just speculate where things stand now about the vote. I haven't seen a lot of polling about it. I'm not quite sure how the trends are running, but what's the upshot if this in fact does not pass? Is there anything there, any carryover after that for anybody?
I don't think that'll slow down the right to life, folks. If it could be very close, if it doesn't pass by a wide margin, that might be discouraging for them. But if it's close, I think you'll see them try it again. You'll see them try it in different. How many cities have voter initiative? I don't know Santa Fe does, but it's hard to get on the ballot.
Yeah, absolutely. Please, so you had a point there.
I was just going to say, Tara Shaver, who's leading this effort, said that I think she's hoping to get more traction in the legislature next year, depending on the vote. Even if it loses, if it's close, that gives them a little more credibility when they go to the legislature. I think.
Well, you're able to take with an election like this, what you're able to do is drill down into that data and go to a state representative and say, Representative Steve, you're not for this, but your district was 5-1 in favor of it. Now you're recruiting a candidate against Steve if he doesn't vote right. Now you have a single legislator mailer campaign that can get someone up and running.
Right.
I think this thing's going to have, I think the wide turnout, my guesstimation is, the churches do a good job of turning folks out.
Sure.
And I think, with the bishop being as active as he is in this, Bishop Sheehan, I think it's going to win. I think it's going to pass. I think it's going to pass fairly significantly. I don't think it's going to be an overwhelming victory, but I think it's going to be a bigger victory than people think. And I think the question then is going to become, does a guy the largest city in New Mexico, does a guy running for governor, does he annoy this number of people? Does he anger them, the Attorney General? Does he take the fight on?
Sure.
I think that's a big question
That's fair
politically
enough.
for him.
That's fair enough, but the legalities, he would have his hands tied, it would seem to me, Lana. I mean, if it's unconstitutional,
Yeah.
his hands are tied. He has to do something.
That's his
Yeah.
opinion. That's his opinion.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
It seems like an opinion of a lot of sort of informed people that this doesn't match with state and federal laws. But I think there's one problem potentially with your argument is that the way that the city aggregates votes, maybe not for the governor's office, but for the state legislator, they aggregate votes now by the city. There are no district votes because of the vote centers. And so one of the problems, because I've been thinking about how I can look at this, is we don't know what districts or precincts, we don't know how they're voting. We only get an overall vote in the city. And those numbers are still going to be much, much lower than what you would find in a general election campaign.
The thing you
Federal
can
race.
do is you can take that voted data and you can run it against things like Voter Vault, and you can then parse that data, that information out as to here's the people actually voted, here's where they live, and you can get those numbers. And it's interesting to say that this is going to run up against constitutional challenge. Everybody was excited a few weeks ago on the show. There were a lot of folks excited about it being struck down in Texas and then being reinstated the very next day. So, I mean, I think that this big question on this whole issue about abortion, I think there's two things to look at. One, it really raises the level of the discussion about viability. I think that's what this is pushing forward. I think it's also a huge kudos to the Right to Life organization that they're not making a total grab. They're going after something very, very specific instead of saying we just want to outlaw abortion completely. And I think that they're getting better at choosing the fight the right way that helps them in the long term.
That's been the strategy for years, or at least in the legislature. I know the fight in the legislature, it usually isn't over this, it's usually over parental notification.
Yes.
That's another
Yeah,
one.
interesting. Jerry, interestingly, there is, it's kind of funny to think about, this is another issue on the ballot, which is a city council race. We would almost think like, really, is that happening? However, I'm curious in the machinations of all this. Does this help either Ms. Jones, the incumbent or the challenger, having this kind of thing coming out?
I'm not that familiar with that local race.
What do you think?
It's tough. I think that that's kind of a swing district.
Yeah.
And so I think it's going to matter who's got the ground troops going out there.
Yeah.
I would say that it's interesting. This issue really energizes the far left and the far right of both spectrums. So it's really going to come down to who can get their folks to the polls, track them as they're going through this, as we were just talking about, track them through early voting, track them through Election Day. And consistently, the GOTV has been, which is Get Out the Vote, has been better served by Republicans than it has been by Democrats in New Mexico, in my opinion, which I would say lends Janice Arnold-Jones to be in a good position.
You just anticipated my question to Lana. Does this naturally help Janice Arnold-Jones in some odd way, or is that, would they be remiss to think that because they've got this other
I
stuff?
wouldn't count on that. I think it really
Yeah.
depends. I mean, it is a close district, and you've got this situation where we don't know who's mobilizing the most voters. And so if it's the left that's getting voted, then she's going to lose. And if it's the right, then she's going to win. And we don't know what's going on. I did talk to Amy Bailey, the city clerk, and she said that a lot of voters are new voters and people who are not usually in participating in a local contest.
Oh,
That's
interesting.
not, that's not good for
That would
Janice.
not be, yeah.
This is anecdotal, but I talked to a couple of people, Albuquerque residents in their 20s over the weekend, and neither of them voted in the mayor's race, but they're talking about making sure to get to the ballot to vote against the abortion bill.
One can only wonder, as we wrap this up, speaking of the clerk, one can only wonder if this issue was on the mayoral ballot, if that in fact, how this would all have been if that
Wouldn't have
been
made
on
a
the
difference,
ballot.
but I think it would have helped the initiative pass.
There you go. In a moment, we're back to talk about Loveless selling its health plan to Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Mexico.